Everyone thought she was just a mad, dying woman from the street. But the day she died, a strange lawyer came looking for Dio, and what he brought would change everything. Dio was just a nobody, an orphan, a young man surviving in the Lagos market. He had no mother, no father, no siblings. His bed was the cold floor behind a pepper stall. His pillow, a torn sack of rice. Every morning he woke before the sun. He swept the front of the shops, pushed carts for angry customers, and washed plates in exchange for leftover rice. He wore the same faded shirt for weeks. His slippers had holes the size of coins, but he smiled anyway. That's the strange thing about Dio. He had nothing, but still gave everything. He greeted everyone with respect, helped old women lift buckets. He gave hungry children his last banana, even when his stomach growled. Then one evening, everything changed. It started with rain, not a drizzle, a heavy storm that turned the market into mud. As people rushed for shelter, Dio saw something moving near the trash pile. It was a woman. She was shaking. Her clothes stuck to her skinny frame. Her feet were bare, her hair matted with dirt. People looked, then laughed. Mad woman, where did this ghost come from? Don't go near her. She might curse you. But not Dio. He ran to her, took off his only shirt, covered her shoulders. Then he handed her his bread, the one he had saved for dinner. Her hands trembled as she held it. She looked at him with tired eyes and whispered, "You have a good heart, my son." Dio smiled gently, then helped her sit by the corner, beneath the old umbrella he used as shelter. But the next morning, she was gone, dead. Or so everyone said. But what no one knew was that she had left something behind, and soon it would find him. 3 days had passed since the old woman vanished, since Dio gave her his last bread. He hadn't stopped thinking about her, where she went, if she survived the night, or if she had truly died like the market women said. But life moved on. Customers shouted. Oil splattered on his arms as he scrubbed dirty plates behind the shop. Then suddenly, a strange silence fell over the market. A sleek black car pulled up near the roadside. Clean, expensive, out of place. Everyone paused, heads turned. A tall man stepped out, well-dressed, dark glasses, shiny shoes. He looked around, then walked toward the back of the shop. "Are you Dio?" he asked calmly. Dio wiped his wet hands on his trousers. "Yes, sir." Without another word, the man reached into his briefcase and pulled out a brown envelope. "This is for you." Dio blinked. "Me?" The man nodded and handed it over. With shaking hands, Dio tore it open. Inside was a single folded paper. He read it slowly. "To the only person who showed me mercy." Dio's breath caught. His heart thumped. What did this mean? The man leaned closer and said softly, "The woman you helped that night, she wasn't mad." Dio looked up sharply. "She was Madame Abigail Okonjo," the man continued, "wife of the late Chief Thomas Okonjo, billionaire, founder of Okonjo Estates." Dio's eyes widened. "No, that can't be." "She went missing a year ago," the man said. "After her children betrayed her, they left her with nothing, so she walked away and went to the streets." Dio took a step back. "You're lying." "I'm not. She left everything behind, except a lawyer. Me." Dio stared at the paper again. His hands were shaking. The man added gently, "She made a will. You are the only name in it." Dio whispered, "Me? Yes. She gave you everything she owned. Her house, her businesses, her accounts." Silence. Dio looked around the market, the same place where he'd once begged for leftovers. He clutched the letter to his chest. His life was no longer the same, and soon the whole city would know who he was. The next morning, a black SUV pulled up in front of the market. Dio didn't even have a proper bag to carry, just a plastic nylon with his shirt and slippers. The driver stepped out, opened the door, and nodded. "Please come with me, sir." "Sir?" Dio had never been called that before. He sat stiffly in the back seat, clutching the letter the lawyer gave him. His heart pounded the entire drive. The windows were tinted. The seat smelled of rich leather. Every turn the car made felt like a new life approaching. They drove for nearly an hour. Then suddenly, the car slowed down. Dio looked up through the window and froze. In front of him stood a mansion, taller than his secondary school, wider than any hotel he had ever seen on TV. White marble walls, golden gates, a fountain shaped like angel wings. Flowers lined the entrance like a royal palace. Staff in clean uniforms stood by the doors. As soon as Dio stepped out, one of them bowed and said, "Welcome home, sir." He couldn't speak. He just followed the lawyer inside. The living room looked like something out of a dream. Massive chandeliers, crystal tables, walls made of glass. Then the lawyer pointed to a giant flat screen on the wall. He pressed a button. A video began to play. Dio gasped. It was her, the old woman. But this time, she looked different. Her face was clean, her hair combed neatly. She wore a silk gown and gold earrings. She smiled softly in the video. "If you're seeing this, I'm gone. But you gave me food when I had nothing. You covered me when the world looked away. That's why I'm giving you everything I own. This house, my companies, my lands, it's all yours, Dio." Dio's knees nearly buckled. He grabbed the armrest for support. His mouth opened, but no words came out. The lawyer handed him a folder. Inside, bank statements, land documents, and a golden keychain. Dio had become a billionaire. From washing plates to owning empires, all because of one act of kindness. News spread like wildfire. The boy who used to push wheelbarrows now owned mansions. The same Dio who washed plates for jollof crumbs had become a billionaire overnight. People couldn't believe it. Shopkeepers whispered. Some clapped when he passed. Some just stared, mouths open. Mama Cootie, the tomato seller, held her chest and said, "Is this the same Dio who used to sweep here?" Others weren't so kind. "Must be fake," one man said. "Or maybe he's working with ritualists." Dio didn't argue. He just smiled politely. He packed his small nylon bag, the one with his only 2 shirts and slippers, and quietly returned to the shop where he used to sleep. He knocked once. The owner came out, shocked. "I came to say thank you," Dio said, then handed him a sealed envelope. "No one will trouble your shop again." As he stepped back into the street, people rushed him, phones in the air. "Selfie, Dio! Help my business! Buy me a house, too." But he didn't say much. He just nodded and walked away. Later that night, he stood alone in the center of the massive marble-floored mansion. No voices, no noise, no market sounds, just silence. He walked to the corner of the room and sat on the floor, barefoot. He looked around. Gold, chandeliers, white curtains swaying in air-conditioned wind. But he missed the noise of the market. He missed the cold cement he used to sleep on. And more than anything, he missed her, the woman who once said, "You have a good heart, my son." Dio lit a small candle, even though the lights worked, then whispered softly, God, what do I do with all this? The next morning, Dio didn't sit in luxury. He didn't go shopping. He didn't buy a new phone. He stood in front of the mansion, barefoot, thinking. Then he pulled out his phone and called a contractor. "Break the east wing," he said. "Build 20 rooms. Build a kitchen. Build hope." The contractor paused. "Hope?" Dio nodded. "Yes, for the people no one sees." Work began immediately. For weeks, hammers echoed through the once quiet estate. Walls came down, floors were raised, pipes were fixed, and slowly, something beautiful began to rise from the ruins of Abigail's pain. Dio named it Abigail's Home for the Forgotten. He poured money into it without blinking. He bought soft mattresses, clean blankets, and rows of metal bunk beds. A full kitchen with rice, yams, beans, soup, medical supplies, inhalers, sanitary pads. He even hired nurses and cooks from the local community. And then, they started to come. Old women, sick women, homeless girls, abandoned mothers. Some limped, some crawled. One woman arrived with only a sack and no shoes. Dio met each one at the gate, smiling gently. "You're safe now," he said. "You'll sleep in peace tonight." He didn't. Just open the door. He opened his heart. Word began to spread beyond the neighborhood. A journalist came. Then another. Soon a photo of Dio holding a baby under the mansion sign went viral. From market boy to angel of mercy. That's what the headline said. But Dio stayed silent. He still wore his old brown slippers, the ones with the torn strap. Still walked to the market to buy yam himself. Still greeted his old boss with a smile and said, "Good morning, sir." As if nothing had changed, but everything had. He had turned grief into comfort, pain into purpose, a mansion into a home. Yet inside him, he still remembered the night rain poured. And one dying woman whispered, "You have a good heart, my son." Now that voice had become his mission, and her name, his legacy. It was a cloudy morning. The sky looked heavy. The air was cold. Inside Abigail's home, breakfast was being served, hot yam porridge and tea. Dio was reviewing a list of new beds being added to the clinic. Then, a loud knock, a commotion near the gate. One of the staff ran inside, panicked. "Sir, a girl has fainted at the entrance." Dio dropped everything and rushed out. She was lying on the ground, barefoot, skinny, her dress torn in places. Her lips were dry, her eyes half open. People had started gatherings outside the gate, whispering. Dio didn't wait. He picked her up in his arms and carried her inside, carefully, like she was glass. He laid her on a clean bed, placed a cloth on her head, and fed her slowly with warm porridge. She didn't speak. Not that day, not the next. For 3 full days, she stayed silent, staring at the ceiling, blinking slowly, as if her soul was still trying to return. On the 4th morning, Dio walked in quietly and sat beside her again. She turned her head, finally looked at him, and whispered one word. "Why?" Dio smiled gently. His voice was soft. "Because someone once saved me too." The mansion had changed. No longer just a house of gold and chandeliers. It had become something deeper. Near the main entrance, mounted above the gate, was a golden plaque. It didn't say private property. It didn't boast of wealth. It read, "This house exists because one soul saw another." Dio stood before it one quiet morning. The sun was rising behind him. The wind danced through the trees. Inside, laughter echoed. Children running, women cooking, nurses checking vitals. A place that once stood silent was now alive with purpose. But Dio didn't stop there. He launched the Abigail Foundation. He built 2 more shelters in nearby towns. He paid school fees for children who had never seen a classroom. He restored abandoned hospitals, sponsored widows, fed the hungry. And through it all, he never changed. Dio still ate with his workers, on the same benches they did. Every Sunday he put on his apron, served food himself, and listened to people's stories. One afternoon during a local TV interview, a journalist leaned in and asked him, "Dio, with all this wealth, why didn't you keep the money for yourself?" Dio smiled, his eyes gentle. He looked around, saw the happy faces, the full plates, the peaceful rooms. Then he replied quietly, "Because I didn't earn it. Kindness gave it to me, so I'm giving it away." Final shot. Dio standing at the gates of Abigail's home. Children run around him, laughing freely. The golden sunlight rests on his face. He looks up to the sky and whispers, "Thank you, Mama Abigail." When you give with a pure heart, the reward may take time, but it always finds you. Would you have helped the old woman like Dio did? Drop your answer in the comments. We'd love to hear your heart, and don't forget, another powerful story drops in 24 hours. Subscribe now. Let's keep kindness alive together.